Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Plus Social Good panel. We are talking about the World Cup, and specifically with this conversation, we're going to talk about how sports and athletics can empower women and girls and promote gender equality. My name is Melissa Hillebrenner. I'm the director of Girl Up, a campaign of the United Nations Foundation, and our mission is to improve the lives of adolescent girls in developing countries, and we get teen girls and youth activists from all over the world to help us in our mission. I'm so excited to be joined by a couple of really exciting panelists. We have Evan Ryan, the Assistant Secretary for Educational and Cultural Affairs at the U.S. Department of State. We have Carly Bant, who's a teen advisor with the Girl Up campaign, and Rebecca Soni, who's an Olympic gold medal swimmer and also a champion for Girl Up. Welcome, all of you, and thank you so much. I'd love to actually start by having you each introduce yourselves and tell us why you are in this work and why sports and girls and women empowerment is so important to you. Evan Ryan, if you could start us off, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here with all of the panelists, such a great group of panelists, to discuss this important issue. As Melissa mentioned, I'm the Assistant Secretary of State for Educational and Cultural Affairs, and that is a great position to be in because one of the things we do at ECA is we have a Sports United office, and our Sports United office works on sports diplomacy all over the world, and one of their big initiatives is empowering women and girls through sports. And we do this through bringing sports envoys from the United States all across the world, so that people can have a chance to experience, all over the world people really like to learn about, athletes in the United States, sports across the United States. It's a big export of ours, so they're quite in demand. We also have sports visitors who come here to the U.S., and we've had teams and groups of young people, youth coaches, so those are our sports visitors. And we also have a really great program called, it's the State Department ESPNW Global Sports Mentoring Program, which works with women around the world, bringing them here to the United States, partnering them with a mentor in the field that they're working in terms of sports. And they partner and work together to figure out the best ways that those women can go back to their countries and bring that knowledge with them on how sports can help transform lives. Because as we'll hear, I know today from all the panelists, we know that sports can transform lives, especially for girls. And you see higher academic success, higher professional success when you know that a girl is involved with sports.
Great. Thank you so much, Assistant Secretary. Carly, I'm going to turn it to you next. Can you tell us a little bit about why sports and girls and women empowerment is so important to you?
My name is Carly Bant, and I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm 18 years old, and as Melissa mentioned, I'm a teen advisor for Girl Up, which is a campaign of the United Nations that works to empower girls in developing nations. And one of the ways we do this is by mobilizing girls in the U.S., by educating them about the difficulties girls face, and then working to raise funds through, one of the ways we do this is through sports fundraisers. So, for example, doing sports 5Ks and powder puff football games. And it's just a lot of fun to see how girls can come together through athletics to raise funds for other girls across the world. Additionally, I'm an assistant junior coach for Girls on the Run, which is a nonprofit organization here in the United States that helps empower girls through facilitating discussions on self-esteem and body image and healthy eating and bullying. And it does this by integrating running through meeting after school in sports groups. And we start by talking about keeping yourself healthy and then relationships and bringing it out to the community and how you can do good in your community, ending with a culminating 5K race where the girls are able to work towards that and set that goal. And then it's really inspiring to see them accomplish that as they finish their 5K at the end of the season. And I think one of the main reasons why I'm involved is just seeing and meeting with girls who don't have the same opportunities as I do, but just seeing that we're sisters, we're one and the same, And just having sports been such a big influence in my life, whether it's soccer or running or gymnastics, and to know that other girls don't have that opportunity, it really hits me and it makes me want to help them have those same opportunities that I have had.
That's great, Carly. Girls on the Run is a really great partner of Girl Up, so I'm excited to have you represent for both. Rebecca, I'm going to come to you next. Can you just tell us a little bit about your long and short, since you're still so young, but your long career in sports and how you've seen that really empower you as a woman?
First of all, hi everybody, and I'm really excited to be here. My name is Rebecca Soni. I'm a two-time Olympic swimmer. I have, 6 Olympic medals, and I've had an amazing, amazing career. And all of this, I couldn't imagine my life without sports. The opportunities that I've been given, not only to compete in my country, but also to go off and represent my country in competition, both are really amazing opportunities. And I, have experienced so much from what my sport has given me, and it continues to give me even after I've retired and walked away from my sport. It continues to give back, and just looking back at the life that I've had ever since jumping into the pool for the first time when I was 10 years old, and all the sports that I did beforehand as well, have had so many benefits on me, on my life. I can honestly say I wouldn't be the person I am today without it. And granted, I'm an extreme example. I made it to Olympics and so on, but when it comes down to it, the highlights of my career, aside from the medals, aside from the traveling, is the teammates and the hard work that I learned, all of the skills that I learned, motivation, dedication, drive, all these things that continue to serve me on an everyday basis, and really just big life skills that I learned inside of the pool, and I took it outside of the pool. And that's why I'm really excited to really spread this message and to get across how important it is for girls just like me all around the world who aren't necessarily starting a sport in order to achieve greatness, but just to have fun, build all those amazing skills that you learn from sports, and it's a really unique, priceless opportunity, and I'm really excited to be talking about this today.
Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca. So to take our conversation a little deeper, I'd like to ask each of you, from your perspective, to share what you think are some of the greatest challenges for girls around the world today, and maybe just a thought or two on how you think sports can really help empower girls in those situations. I'm going to go back to the Assistant Secretary. You can to start us off. Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. There's so many challenges around the world. I think we've come a long way, and I think we've had a lot of great leadership and examples, but there's still a ways to go. And as we all well know, there are limits to girls' education around the world, places where really, as we've seen in Nigeria, people will go to extreme lengths to prevent a girl from getting an education. So that is it's a big problem. We have issues related to child marriages in some parts of the world, and trafficking. We also have, extreme poverty, as well as gender-based violence. So these are issues that are confronting girls all over the world, and sports is a really unique tool to use to be able to address these issues. And because sports teaches so much, sports really raises a girl's self-esteem. It helps them to, it empowers them. It gives them a sense of leadership often and teamwork, and perhaps working together to confront the challenges of their individual community. Some of the challenges that we've talked about, very daunting, but maybe making initial steps to address those challenges. And there are ways that sports can also really work to eliminate gender stereotypes. When a community sees girls on a playing field girls in a swimming pool, girls anywhere playing a sport. I think they look at them as, wow, these are empowered people who are taking charge of their lives and really trying to set their lives in a certain direction, as we've heard. So I think sports can be a really transformative tool, and we really have seen the statistics. There was a UN report called Women 2000, Gender Equality in Sport, and you really saw how sports can play a role in changing the social dynamics of a society while also being an economic empowerment tool. So it's something at the State Department we think a lot about, and we really are investing a lot in.
That's so great. Thank you for all your work, and I think we all know that those insights are and those situations that the girls in can be really horrifying, as are the story with the girls in Nigeria. So Carly, I'm going to come back to you. You know, from your perspective as a teen girl yourself, what have you learned about in these issues, and how do you think, from your own experience in sports, how that can translate to girls in developing countries who maybe don't have the same equality that we have here in the U.S.? Carly, there we go. Go ahead, Carly. Let's start over.
Okay. Yeah, so I definitely agree with the team aspect. Just being on a team myself since a very young age, making those connections both with my coaches as extreme role models and with my teammates, having someone to trust and rely on in a different environment where you're all working together. And I know that's something that girls in developing nations often face is just in isolation in these rural villages where they don't have programs to go to where they can interact with girls their age and have that strong support system. And I think that's something that sports can really foster, is the communication and the cooperation and teamwork that we need to empower these girls to become future leaders in their communities. And just stepping up and being captain of even my own high school team has just given me those skills that I think will help me in my own career and in my own future. And girls in leadership positions is something this world really, really needs, and I think sports can be a great way to promote that.
I totally agree, Carly. I think that's a great message. So Rebecca, you know, as an athlete yourself, I know you've traveled a bit. You've traveled with us at Girl Up, but from what you've seen and what you've experienced, can you talk a little bit about the gender equality and sort of the equalizing of girls and boys, and how you think that could play out in developing countries based on your own experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had a chance to compete in many countries all around the world, and it's really been an incredible opportunity not only to, you know, visit and travel and immerse myself in different cultures and see from that perspective, but also to see what's going on the field, on the pool deck in those countries. You know, especially on the Olympic stage, it's really really fascinating to walk around and see. You know, you have the athletes from the big countries that are there focused on the medals, and then there's the athletes that are there that are just there to represent their country, and it's usually the smaller underdeveloped countries that, you know, have maybe one girl there and maybe one guy there, and that's really such an amazing opportunity to see them, you know, not only walking in to the pool deck but coming into race and having these wide eyes and just soaking it all in, because it's not only an amazing opportunity for them to be there, but they really feel how empowering it is for them to be stepping up to race and compete for their country. And you can tell that they really go home with a bigger kind of experience than what the rest of us feel, because very often they're there, you know, by themselves or with one coach, and they don't have that big team that we have. You know, just growing up in sports, I really treasure all the experiences that it's given me, as far as, you know, empowerment, as far as creating that equal playing field. I know that, you know, the United States is probably way more advanced in that regard as far as gender equality, but even here, even at home, it takes some time to build that relationship, and for women to really take that step to be a lot more respected and to be, you know, on the same playing playing field, if you will, as all the men. And so it's a really interesting dynamic to look at. But when you get deeper into sports, the more that girls stay involved and keep on pushing and keep on building, growing themselves, learning respect both for themselves, for their teammates, for everybody around them, and coaches, it really just helps lift everybody up and take everybody to the next level. And that's really such an amazing opportunity that sports has given us, and it's really been great to watch that evolve into the, everything from my first team as a 10-year-old all the way up to the Olympic stage. It's all the same dynamics at play, and it's been really great to watch. Personally speaking, my last experiences in the 2012 Olympics, as far as the swim team goes, the women's team was absolutely extraordinary, and it was probably the first time in my swimming career that the women's side was emphasized almost more than the men's side. So that was a really interesting experience to see that women were being as respected, if not more, looked up to and looked forward to for the events that the women were competing in. But it was a really exciting, movement forward in our sport, and really excited to watch as it keeps on moving forward in the future.
That's great, Rebecca. That's also really inspiring, and I hope a lot of girls watching this will feel moved by the idea that their sport can be just as important as the male sports, if not more so. So that's great. So kind of going off of that same thought process, I'm hoping that each of you can maybe share just a quick story about a girl that you've met in your travels, or even just about yourself, maybe a smaller anecdote about how you've been positively impacted through athletics, or a girl that you've met has been positively impacted. And again, I'm going to start with the Assistant Secretary, so Evan, you can take it away.
Thank you. Well, I have to say it was really striking listening to Rebecca, because obviously Rebecca has achieved the highest of heights when it comes to sports, but I listened to her and how she recognized what a gift it has been to her in her life, and I thought, I have not achieved anything close to Rebecca, but I still can look back at my own experience with sports and see the connection to helping me on my own path to get where I am today. And I started playing soccer when I was 6. I also played basketball. I think I started that maybe that year or the following year. And I think back to my mother, who would always say, you are the most productive when your sport's in season. When I had more time on my hands, I didn't do as much. So I would get more homework done. My day was scheduled better. And so I think I learned a lot about work ethic through sports. I also learned through sports that practice is important, and that practice is an investment in yourself, and the amount of effort you put into it, and I think we've got panelists who are great testimonies to this, and both Rebecca and Carly, the amount of work you put into it is what you'll get out of it, and it'll benefit you. And I also definitely learned about teamwork and leadership. And so when I really look back at all those years, and as I said, not at the highest levels of competition, I still can see the correlation in how I learned to work with others, how I learned that hard work is a really important attribute in terms of trying to achieve your goals. So I really credit sports for that, and I'm happy to have made that connection listening to Rebecca.
That's great, and I think that those teamwork and work ethic, that sort of rings true whether you're a girl or a boy, and so I think just youth and sports and empowerment is a really great way to learn. So that's a great point. Thanks for sharing. Carly, I just learned recently that you actually spent some time in Brazil, which is where the World Cup is happening, where all the eyes in the world are focused. Could you talk a little bit about your experience in Brazil, and maybe some of the girls that you met, and how this whole topic applies, and how you maybe saw that come to life?
Definitely, definitely. So last April, I was invited to represent the U.S. as a delegate to the International Girls Empowerment Seminar, and it brought together girls ages 12 to 18 to Brazil, and we met and attended various conferences and seminars, And I think one of the most inspiring messages that I took away and really motivated me to get involved with the cause for gender equality is when two Brazilian soccer athletes, one of them Aline Pellegrino from Brazil and another Caitlin Fisher from the U.S., came and spoke about their experience playing for Brazil professionally. And as a soccer player, I've always thought of Brazil being kind of the epitome of soccer, and I would think that they would have all the opportunities that they would need to have a successful career, but really hearing their stories about really how in Brazil the soccer players don't get any endorsements or recognition, and they don't even get playing fields because the men's team, they don't even get playing time on the fields because the men's teams get all the resources. And that was just really surprising to me. And then speaking to some of the other girls, both in Brazil and from other countries, who don't even have sports at their high schools. They don't even have clubs that they can join to get, and they don't even have roads that are safe to run on. It was just so surprising, and it really made me want to question what I could do to help other girls have those resources.
Well, that's great, Carly, that experience and your connection to sports has made you this activist for just gender equality, and we're obviously lucky to have you as a leader of the Girl Up campaign. So, Rebecca, you spoke about some of these girls that you met on the pool decks and you've met at meets around the world. Is there any particular story that stands out to you that you could share with us today?
Yeah, I have a great story, and it's one that I will always remember. It was during the London Olympics, actually, a little bit before I swam. I might have already swam one event, and we actually have separate warm-up pool area and competition pool. So it was a day off for me, so I went to the warm-up pool, and I was just getting ready for either the night's race or the next day's race. And as an athlete on that level, it's kind of go time. You tend to put your blinders on and just go for it and try not to talk to anybody and, not anything specific, but you're definitely in the zone. And next thing I know, this little girl from some African country, I can't remember which one, I really wish I could, she starts jumping into my lane, and next thing I know, she's like trying to talk to me, and her English is so-so, and her coach comes over and starts talking to me, and he's like, oh, she just really wanted to meet you. Her name is Rebecca also. And I could just see her face. She was just so happy, and I usually like to zone in, but for whatever reason this girl just caught my heart. And as we were talking, she would talk, her coach would translate, and I kind of learned a little bit more about her. She was 15 years old, the only one from her whole country at this Olympic Games across all sports, not just in swimming. And she was just excited to be there. It was her first big international competition, and it was just so great to see so much excitement on this little 15-year-old girl. So we ended up parting ways. We took a picture together, the two Rebeccas, and I ran into her here and there at the competition pool. I saw her race. She was in one of the first heats. Usually the smaller countries that don't have quite as a developed swimming program, the first few heats are actually quite a bit slower, but they still are amazing athletes for not only what they had to overcome to get there, but just being there on their own and so on and so forth. So I'd watched her race, but I never really ran into her again. Fast forward to closing ceremonies, almost 2 weeks later, we're walking in this sea of people. Literally takes about not 10 minutes. It takes about 3 or 4 hours to walk to the big stadium, because you're just moving really slowly, and we're in the sea of Team USA. As you see when you watch the opening and closing ceremonies, all the teams walk together. So, and we're all dressed the same. We all look exactly the same. So we've been walking for probably 3 hours or so. We're just having a good time and talking with all our friends, and next thing I know, I get this little tap on my shoulder, and it is Rebecca, the same girl. She came up to me, so she found me in that sea of hundreds of people that looked exactly the same, and she came up and she gave me this little bracelet, and she said, "This is from home, and this is for you. I brought this for you." And it was just a really beautiful moment. I have a picture with her in that moment, and I still have, obviously, the bracelet that she gave me, and every time I see it, it just really fills my heart with all that whole experience meant. Everything from, you know, walking and closing ceremonies to seeing this girl who really touched my heart, and the fact that I touched hers was really a beautiful thing. So to have that connection with two people, you know, completely opposite lives all the way across the world is really one of my top moments in sport, let alone you know, talking about the subject that we're talking about.
Yeah. Rebecca, what do you think she taught you in that moment? What is it that moved you with her story and your experience with her?
I mean, she just taught me love and kindness and compassion and dedication, hard work, motivation, you know, courage to come on your own, and all these things. It just really kind of embodied everything that the Olympics and sports stands for, and to see that come from such a young girl, a 15-year-old girl who, you know, she didn't know better. She was just coming to say hi, and you know, was just giving a gift of friendship, and that was really amazing, and that just shows that you never know who you're going to connect with all the way across the world, and I probably will never see her again, and maybe I will, maybe I won't, maybe I'll be watching Rio and see her there, but it was just a beautiful moment, and she really, you know, she really did teach me so much, and I really treasure not only that bracelet that she gave, but the memory and the picture that we have together, and just to remind me of, you know, the pure love inside of a human's heart.
That's so great. Thank you, Rebecca. So coming back to the Assistant Secretary, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about some of your goals there in the Education and Cultural Affairs Department, and what is advice that you have, but also what are the big goals, what are the big gaps that you see, and how can we all help?
Well, we just want to, in terms of sports and girls in sports, we want to try to communicate. You all are helping us today because we want to try to communicate what a powerful tool it is for a young girl, and how transformative it is in terms of her path in life. And so anything we can do to communicate that message is fantastic. For us, and I remember one of the first things I did as Assistant Secretary was I greeted a young group of Iraqi soccer players, young girls, and they were amazing to me. I think they were about maybe 14 years old, and they'd come here to the United States, never really having traveled before, and they went to a camp in North Carolina and learned more soccer skills, and were able just to be introduced to the United States and have a sense of the United States. And so this is an example of where sports can really bring us closer together as countries and help bridge divides. And I'm a big believer in that. Years ago, I worked with a nonprofit that really used sports as a tool for building bridges, and it's so wonderful for me to now be an ECA where that's also a goal that we have here. So we look to get more girls involved, help them understand that sports can be a valuable tool. We've done that, as I mentioned, through our ESPNW State Department joint partnership, the Global Sports Mentoring Program. And through that program, I can say that we had this one young woman named Fatima Salim, and she returned to Pakistan and started an organization called Go Girl Pakistan, and she uses sports in Karachi, where she is, to help empower girls, help them understand their own potential. So for us, when we heard about Fatima's story, we thought, well, that's exactly what we need, is more of that. So not only do we try to bring our visitors over, like the Iraqi soccer team that we met with, but also through our Global Sports Mentoring Program, we're bringing women here who want to go back to their countries and help establish organizations that empower women and girls through sports, because we do think that it is the path to a better future for girls, and that we've all talked about the benefits, and I think there's so many places around the world that are desperately in need of that kind of transformation, and sports, we're hoping, can be one foundational aspect to helping transform a society.
That's great. Thank you so much. Carly, you know, as a youth athlete and, you know, soccer and basketball and running and all these things, but also as an activist, you know, the role that you have with Girl Up and how you're trying to really promote equality, what advice would you have for girls that are watching this, you know, all over the world, who are maybe thinking about getting involved in sports or who maybe already are, and how they can use that platform to reach other girls and really inspire them?
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely think my piece of advice would simply be perseverance, because something that I've learned with my work through activism and through sports is that there are going to be obstacles and bumps in the road, whether it's injury or you don't have a playing field to go to, such as I witnessed in Brazil, or you simply are put down by others who don't follow your same beliefs and ideologies, and they think what you're doing is going to be pointless. And just persevering, and I think it's something that you can learn through sticking it out through the last few minutes of a soccer game or pushing through the last couple meters of a 4K race. And it's simply going with what you believe in and not letting anyone put you down. And I think, yeah, that's definitely a huge piece of advice that I would give to any girl, whether in sports or in other aspects of her life.
Great, thank you. And Rebecca, I feel like I want to hear your advice, you know, being at the epitome of athletics. You know, what advice would you give to someone, girls, boys, young people watching this who maybe haven't played a sport before or haven't really ventured into this world, and maybe they're a little afraid or unsure? What would you tell them? How would you inspire them to just jump in?
I would always focus on the fact that it's all about fun. It's all about having fun. It's a big thing that I tell young swimmers, let alone all sports. It's all about just letting go of all the stigma and all of the, you know, who's watching and am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? You know, did I get that technique wrong and all that? Like, letting go of that and just realizing that it's all about, you know, coming together to be as a team, to have fun. That's something that cannot be overemphasized. When you look at sports, everything from the first day I jumped in the pool all the way to the night before I swam my last race, it's all about the fun. And, you know, all the things that we've talked about today, that's kind of secondary. That happens all on its own. You just have to give yourself a little time and space to explore, figure out what it is which sport it is that does make you have the most fun. It could be something more, you know, running or in the water. It could be something like fencing. It could be absolutely anything, but anything that lights you up, that's where you got to keep working at. And like I said, focusing on the fun parts, the team, the social aspect, all that's really going to help. I think a lot of what I see with young kids when they're afraid of starting a sport or joining in on a team, it's all about what are the people around me going to think. But we just have to all learn how to let that go. You know, that's something that I learned from competing at the highest stage, with having all those eyes on you. You just have to let it go and realize that when it comes to your life, you are in charge of everything. It's not about what anybody else thinks about you. It's about what you choose to do. And you know, sports are a great way to help you learn that in your life and to start practicing that from a very early age.
I think that's great advice, Rebecca. Thank you. Assistant Secretary, I'd actually like to just ask you the same question. I mean, I know that you talked about the role that athletics played in your life, and, you know, being in this really very powerful position as a female leader in the Department of State. And you know, what advice do you have for girls and young women who are in sports, and how can what lessons can they take from that experience to bring them through their career if they maybe aspire to a role that like one that you have at this point? How can they use those lessons throughout their adulthood?
Oh, thank you for that question, Melissa. I think I mentioned earlier, it's really interesting for me because I think at the time I didn't realize the lessons that I was learning. I think Carly really spoke to that well, because you have injuries, or you fall down, or perhaps, you've had a really bad game, but it's really learning that you try again. And you just get back up and you do it again and you practice harder. And all of that, I think, played a big role in recognizing that there are setbacks throughout life, and setbacks in careers, and setbacks in terms of opportunities that you'd hoped would come your way and did not. And then you recognize, well, there's another game, there's another day, there's another opportunity. So I would say that it's a really important tool in terms of resilience. I think that you'll find that athletes are very resilient in spirit and otherwise. So I really think that I would encourage girls to really look at sports as a way to learn those tools, and I promise you won't even know you're learning them. It'll be something that you'll realize after the fact, and it's a huge benefit. But in the meantime, I think you're on the field, you're with your friends, there's a real element of teamwork, and you're working hard, and I think that's an important life lesson as well. So I think all of those aspects really do contribute to when you're passed way down the road beyond Carly and Rebecca, where I am, you're able to look back and see the benefits of teamwork and sports, the role that it's played in your life. So I do hope through all of us talking here today that we have sparked some interest out there for girls who haven't yet thought of whether or not to join a team, that we encourage them to do so.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I think that hard work is resilience. Those are qualities that just cannot put a value on that. So that's great. Carly, so you're a soccer player. The World Cup is about to kick off today. This whole conversation is around, World Cup, world goals, plus social good. What is it about these big global events where sort of all eyes turn that's exciting for just sports in general? What are you most excited about?
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely, I think the same spirit that we can see in the Olympics is just people and different countries from all across the world coming together in the spirit of something larger than issues with politics or economy. And I think just seeing that excitement and the spirit that can be fostered by soccer and celebrating that. I'm really excited mostly for the opening ceremonies. That's my most favorite part, when everyone's just coming together with music and celebration, and especially celebrating Brazil, such a beautiful country, and all that they've done in preparation for the World Cup and making it just a wonderful place to host the event. Should be a lot of fun to watch.
Great, great. And Rebecca, you can probably, more than any of the rest of us, relate to what the athletes must be feeling this morning, and the excitement of the opening ceremonies and the games getting ready. Can you give us a little insight in what that might feel like to them today? What are they experiencing as the tournament kicks off?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really exciting time. It's something that you've waited for basically the last 4 years, and that's really hard. You've had competitions along the way, but even those have been once every year or so, and nothing is as important as this is now. And it's just all about excitement. It's about relaxing and making sure that you're not overthinking things. We let our minds get in the way so much as athletes. We tend to talk ourselves out of things before they even get started. So at this point, it's all about excitement. I'm sure they're all just waiting for that first game, for that first time when they can get on the field and just finally get to that zone that they've been practicing for so long. So it's a really exciting time. I'm so really ready to just tune in and watch along and see all of the amazing festivities and the games and all the excitement that goes around for this World Cup season. But it's a really exciting time being an athlete that can relate to what they're going through and how they're feeling and preparations and, all leading up to that final game, which is going to be just so exciting to watch over the next, couple days and weeks.
Great, thanks, Rebecca. Assistant Secretary, as I'm sure, a soccer player, you're probably a fan, but also with your role with the U.S. government, what do events like the World Cup mean for just our global kind of diplomacy and how we all just live in this world together and celebrate these moments like a World Soccer Tournament? What does that mean for us as just citizens and for you as a fan?
So I think it's a perfect example of the power of sports. I think we're about to see, just as in the Olympics and now with the World Cup, we're about to see how sports transcends borders, transcends disagreements that we might have with one another as countries, and it's a convening tool. We're able to all come together, everybody heading to Brazil, for healthy, peaceful competition. I think that's what's so amazing about looking at these global sports events like the World Cup or the Olympics, really how they can transcend the day-to-day issues that countries might have with one another, and we can really just get together on the playing field and show what it's a really great example of the spirit of competition in a peaceful way. And so I think in terms of diplomacy, it's a really wonderful message, and it's something that we're very excited about here at the State Department. We actually had the opportunity to host the World Cup itself here. FIFA came here with Coca-Cola, and we were able to have a ceremony, and the secretary was here. So it was very exciting, and I have to say it was one of the most popular events we've had. So it really is, I view sports as a unifying tool, and I think there's no greater example than what we're all about to see down in Brazil, and we're very happy about that.
That's so great. Thank you. And actually, Assistant Secretary, I'm going to stay with you for a minute. We're getting close to the end of our conversation, so I'd just love to give you an opportunity if there's anything that I haven't asked you about or any final remarks that you'd like to leave with our viewers who are, I hope, tuning in from all over the world. I'll just turn it over to you for a final thought.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I really want to thank you and Carly and Rebecca, and I just really find that this conversation is an important conversation for us to have. I hope that people who have joined us today have learned a lot from it. I hope that the people who have joined us today, if you're young girls out there, please think about joining a team, getting active in some sport. I think you'll see that the dedication and hard work will really pay off huge dividends in your life in the long term. I hope if there are parents out there watching, they too will think about, wow, this is something I should consider for my daughter. And I really hope that they think about ways that they can help her figure out how to get active in a sport. Like I said, we're really working hard here. We have a great partner in the University of Tennessee who partners with us on our Empowering Women and Girls Through Sports initiative. And through that partnership, we've brought people from all around the world here, and our hope is by coming here to the U.S. and taking part with us in these sports exchanges, they've been able to gain skills that will really be able to translate when they go back to their communities. And our hope is that we can continue to do that, continue to build these bridges through these sports exchanges, and continue to help people understand that, you know, we cannot be successful as a world unless girls are empowered and women are empowered, and this is a wonderful path in which to achieve that. So I hope everybody has heard that message.
That's so great, and thank you for tying those remarks together so beautifully. Carly, one final thought from you, girl to girl, peer to peer, athlete to athlete. What is a final thought you'd like to leave our viewers with?
Definitely. Well, I think just for a lot of girls who aren't already involved with sports, it comes with a lot of fear and hesitation that you won't be good and you're going to embarrass yourself. And I think just taking away from what Rebecca was talking about earlier, about just having fun. You don't need to be an Olympic athlete in order to have a positive experience and learn so much. And as Assistant Secretary was saying, I think a lot of what you do learn in sports, you aren't even realizing it at the time. It's maybe even subconscious, but it will come out and impact your life for the better in the future. And I think sports are just such an amazing way to grow as an individual.
Well, thank you, Carly. If it's any indication of where you are at 18, I think we can all see the benefits of sports and athletics. So thank you again for joining us and giving that perspective. And Rebecca, I know, because I know you, we've traveled, we've known each other for a while. I know you do a lot of swim clinics, and I know you're doing workshops, and you're trying to impart some of the knowledge that you've learned and the skills you've learned over your career with young people. And what's a final message that you would like to leave with our viewers as if they were in one of your clinics or one of your workshops?
I love to focus on, the mental side of sports. That's where most of my clinics and workshops are focused at. And one of the things that I really love to leave people with is the idea of, you get to choose who you want to be, how you want to be, and everything in between. You think that you wake up in the morning with this predetermined set of qualities, whether it's, if you're shy or outgoing, a morning person or not a morning person, a fast swimmer or not a fast swimmer, whatever it may be. And very often we tend to take these as who we are. And a lot of girls, I think, can maybe be watching this and say, well, I'm just not athletic. I'm not that kind of person. I don't want to wake up early in the morning. I don't want to go for a run, and so on. And just to realize that that is not who you are. That's just what you think about yourself right now. So all of the things about you, such as this, are changeable, and you just have to get up and give it a try. And you never know what's going to happen, because whatever you choose to do is what is going to end up happening for you and for in your life. So focusing on what works best for you, finding what works best for you, and going back to what I said earlier, just having fun with it.
Well, great. Thank you, Rebecca. I think I will actually take some of that advice myself. It's been such a privilege to be a part of this discussion. And again, I want to thank Assistant Secretary Evan, Carly Bant, Rebecca Soni for being here. I think you really offered some unique perspectives. I personally have a love-hate relationship with athletics. I love it because I love the sense of accomplishment, but it doesn't always come easy. And so that feeling of being scared or really having to overcome sometimes a mental state, but also sometimes a physical state. But I think anything that gives us a stronger sense of self, whether that's athletics and sports or education or being a leader, like Carly mentioned, being a captain of a team, or Rebecca, I know you were a captain on the Olympic team, that sense of leadership, anything that can bring girls a stronger sense of self, a sense of confidence and empowerment, I think is definitely in the right direction. And I'm really glad that Plus Social Good and this community gave us an opportunity to talk about girls and women, even though it's a men's World Cup, and we know the Women's World Cup is coming next year. But it's a good opportunity to really explore, are things equal? And Carly seeing that for herself in Brazil was a really interesting takeaway for me. So I'm very inspired by the work that you're all doing, the role that you play in teaching others and inspiring others, and this has been a really wonderful conversation, so thank you so much. I think all four of us together, if we go out of this conversation and keep up the good work, we'll continue to see that empowerment rise and hopefully that equity rise. So thank you again so much, and I hope the viewers enjoyed this, and enjoy the World Cup. It should be an exciting couple of weeks. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.